Let's get down to the brass tacks here. We're going to talk about Django Unchained. This was shot in 2012 across California and Louisiana with a sprinkle of Wyoming. Could you please tell us about this masterpiece and this production, sir?
Well, it was, what a joy, and a challenge. It was also a challenge, not only because of the multiple locations that you've mentioned, but the content. It's never easy asking 150 people to go out into the field and pick cotton. With a bunch of other fellows riding horses around with shotguns. Recreating that type of that emotion and feeling. First off, recreating the cotton was interesting. It was challenging to do. It was actually soybeans, so the art department put all that cotton on all of those soybeans.
Okay.
And because you just can't grow cotton that fast. It takes some time, and there's not a lot of cotton fields in the South anymore. Mm-hmm. So, but our production designer Michael Riva did a lot of research. Wonderful man, Michael Riva, and he came up with the idea of placing the cotton on soybean because the soy plant looks very similar to the cotton plant. So we did that, and it was always something. There was challenge after challenge after challenge on that movie. We still managed to have an amazing time, but right from the get go, we had challenges, right in training, because there was a lot of training, to ride these horses like you live on them was hard, and Christoph Waltz, we had been studying dressage and in his first day of training, got bucked, off a horse.
Yeah.
And I saw it.
I had a question about that actually. Did Jamie Foxx really give him a saddle with a seatbelt as like a feel better gift?
I had not heard that. I don't know. I don't know
so
if
you
that's
can't confirm nor
that's.
deny. Okay.
I can't confirm nor deny. Yeah, I can't confirm
fair.
nor deny. It doesn't seem like a Jamie. Jamie's more respectful than to make that kind of painful joke. Because maybe at the end, maybe afterwards when it was all said and done, but certainly not before recovery or while we were shooting, because Christoph had to work very hard and be very patient to heal in enough time to even get back on the horse. But that a blessing in disguise is that incident is where the Dentist Wagon came from. There was no wagon in the original piece. It was it was the day after Christoph's injury, and Quentin and I were sitting in his office, and we're he's not going to be the best. I believe it was we were trying to start shooting in December. I can't recall the specifics. This may have been September, October. And for a lot of the riding that needed to be done, both he and Jamie needed, not a couple of days on a horse, they need months on a horse, to feel that natural. And, and Christoph all of a sudden wasn't going to be able to even get on a horse, until it turned out to be until after the new year, but we didn't know exactly yet. And so I just was like, this may be stupid. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. What if, he had a wagon? What if, like those snake oil guys driving around all the time? And Quentin goes, let me think about that. And I'm just like, oh, that was a dumb idea. I can't believe I even said that. This hero riding around in a wagon. Oh God. Oh, well, I said it. What can you do? And then so the next day, Quentin comes in with quintaglyphic sketch. He's not Picasso, or maybe he is a little Picasso. He's not he's not Monet. It's not realistic. It's more surreal, his images. but he comes in with the surreal image of a dentist wagon with the big tooth on top. And we call over Michael and Michael Riva, and he's like, what if we did this? He's a traveling dentist, so he has a chair in the back of and then we can put the dynamite in the tooth. What do you guys think? What do you think? And I'm like, that's hysterical, just thinking about that tooth, and there it is. Now that's the first image of the movie. That was not the plan, but sometimes, as often happens in filmmaking, and one of my favorite parts of the whole process is necessity creates invention. And what you invent out of that necessity is often better than what you had originally fantasized about. So this is one of those examples. And there's several throughout my career where you've had to decide, you can't afford it. You don't have time for it. You don't have whatever it is. You don't have, whatever it is. And you have to figure out a solution. And even though you don't have all the pieces, so you take the pieces that you do have and you make something different. And sometimes it's better. Not always, sometimes you have to make a sacrifice, but often it's better. And that's really when it's a really exciting process for me.
Just hearing that story, I just thinking about this. The Christopher Reeves, that had to be so scary seeing him bucked off a horse like.
Crystal. Oh
No.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Okay.
Superman. Damn it. Yeah. It had to be so scary seeing that. So I'm just happy that he was okay. I never even known that the production was halted to do that. But thankfully, you and your quick thinking. But let me ask you this: there's a scene I want to ask about with the horses since you brought it up. The scene at the end with Jamie Foxx and he's making the horse dance. Did he really do that, or because you said he had months to train, or was that someone else where he's prancing on the horse? It's like a little.
He apparently came with his own horse, right? Like he was.
That was his own horse.
Oh, well, then there you go. Then
he was well versed in horse.
Okay.
And our guys, Rusty Hendrickson and Jeff Dashnaw, they taught him how to do that, and they took the horse. Really, Jamie, wanted to use his horse. He was a little familiar with his horse, but the horse wasn't movie trained. So Jamie allowed Rusty to take the horse, Rusty Henderson to take the horse, and so he and Rusty's amazing guys started working with the horse, and Jamie a little bit with a different horse, and then they brought the two back together. And a lot of it was Jamie's own horse, and I believe that was Jamie's own horse. And I saw it live. It really happened.
Horse movie training. Mr. Ed will never work in this town again. Goodness gracious.
The final shootout of Django Unchained wasn't in the script. That was something where you guys, like you said, there was a problem, and out of that came creativity. Like the problem was, we have now done so much in the movie, we need something that tops that for the climax. So and this isn't just like something, let's just shoot that. They're talking about explosions, multiple extras.
Valentine's Day Massacre almost very, yeah.
So I'm interested what goes through that internally for someone like you who's tasked with, okay, this is what we want to do, let's put it together. What happens in your mind before you even begin to plan when something like that comes up?
Weeping, concerned about your job, end of career. What really caused it was the barn sequence. The barn sequence was so dramatic, and even shooting it was such a drain, even just to shoot the thing. And it was such a poignant and powerful thing that Quentin, was obviously the first to realize that what he had planned for the climax, the end of the movie, all of a sudden wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. Because, now everything is coming down from the barn, as opposed to, taking a little dip with the Australians and then crescendoing again.
Yeah.
So, because really it was just a little speech on the front porch of the thing as they return from the funeral. He gives them each a gun, and asks them to draw, and they can't draw, and he shoots them dead out there. And my biggest concern was the big night light exterior and creating fog and all of this stuff. You know, it was Bob's concerns were my biggest concerns about that scene. And you know, it was one morning at breakfast, just after a day or two after we had finished shooting the barn. And I can always tell, you know, you can tell when something is on Quentin. He's a very expressive person. You know, although he keeps his cards close to his vest, his face often gives away what's on his mind. And I saw just the way he was eating breakfast, or not eating breakfast, that the breakfast was sitting in front of him and he wasn't eating, that I'm like, okay, something's going on. And I just, hey, dude, what's up? How's it going? I need to talk to you. And he explained that the end of the movie wasn't big enough. He had to change the ending. He thinks he told me the idea of putting on Calvin Candy's suit. That was new. You know, that you know, so I'm, you know, just processing all of these things he's telling, because now I got to get Jamie into a fitting right away so they can reproduce that suit so it fits him like it fits Leonardo DiCaprio, because they're not the same people. You know, they're both incredibly handsome and thin and in great shape, but they're not the same. So, you know, I got to go through that whole process. And I know that suit was the piece de resistance for Sharon Davis, our costume designer. So I'm thinking about that. And then, you know, and it's got to be a shootout. And all right. And so all the overseers that we had outside have to come back. All right, some of them aren't even here anymore. I got to start figuring out how to get these guys back, you know. And so I started working with Jimmy Scotch, Paul, our line producer, and Pilar and Stacy and Reggie and Reggie Hudlin to get, you know, all of these things that we're talking about, which he is now going to go back. You know, we shot what we were shooting that day, you know, and then over the weekend he would rewrite that sequence, and so we would learn. You know, we were a couple of weeks away from it. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like tomorrow, which had happened before. On Kill Bill, that happened in Bud's trailer. It was a complete change, you know, dramatic one day. But this, we had a couple of weeks to get our together. But even as we were doing it, you know, it wasn't enough. You know, we brought the overseers who we had back, and then he's like, yeah, and get me 10 others. And so we brought 10 more overseers. But then all of a sudden, you know, we're shooting it. He's like, I need more. So I start dressing up the PAs. You know, I'm an overseer. I'm one of I put on the cowboy suits. I'm the first guy down those steps, you know, that's come down with the gun, just because, you know, I'm just throwing people in, and I'm like, just do what I do. Just do what I do. You know, we're trying to get it done. Just follow me. Just do what I do. And you know, when I put the gun down, you put the gun down. When I put the gun up, you put the gun up. And when I walk forward, you walk forward. And like, okay, you know, because everybody's nervous. They're not trying to be.
I didn't sign up for this.
This is some extra, like, what the?
We shot. I know we shot my key PA, Miguel. We shot him 2-3 times. You know, we're just shooting people. We're just picking people to shoot. You know, just anybody we can to run in the building, and then, you know, redoing as many of the stunt guys as we can, Chinese style, because we learned it on Kill Bill. I mean, we killed all those crazy 88 5 times over. I think the one we killed the most was Elvis. We killed him 5 times. Was the fight, one of the fight team he called Elvis. His name was Elvis, and we shaved his head. You know, he had, so for the first half of the scene, he has hair like Elvis, and by the end of the scene, his head is shaved because he's somebody else, because we had to kill him again, you know. And that's
Crazy 42.
Yeah.
44, Crazy 44.
And so we took that model to the final shootout of, you know, when he's shooting everybody before he gets trapped like a rat in the hallway, where we just keep bringing people in, bring as many people in. And then we needed more people again for when he comes out with his hands up. And that's where I was leading the posse down the steps with a nice big hat, which I always love. Nothing makes my job easier than being on both sides.
That is amazing. One of the most talked about scenes that people they like it, but they don't really go into to know what really happened is the dinner scene at the table when, of course, Samuel Jackson character Steven figures out that he want that girl. They ain't here for nobody. They want that girl. During that scene, Leonardo DiCaprio he becomes so upset, and from what we've interviewed and read, he slammed his hand on that table so many times that the cup eventually moved to under his hand. And one night during production, he actually cut himself. Were you there? And could you tell us about that? Was there and him staying in character was the biggest thing that we were impressed by. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I was there. I was about 5 feet from him, and and saw exactly what he did. What had happened. It was just a little cordial glass. One of those little small glasses that you put your port or your sherry in, and they were all there, and he goes through the speech, and you will, and he bangs and he puts his hand right on the glass, and I'm like, because I saw it, I saw the hand go right down on the glass, and I saw the glass break, and I'm like, oh, Jiminy Crickets, and he kept his hand down there, and he just kept acting, and then he brought it up, and there he is bleeding, and cut, and then he goes, I think I cut my hand. Yeah. Like medic, Erica,
Oh,
medic,
man.
and yeah, he did, and he continued right through. I mean, I knew from the first time I had worked with Leo was on Django Unchained, and the first shot that we did with him was the introduction of his character. Where on the back of his head is the Mandingos are fighting by the fireplace, and the French,
Yeah.
and it's a 70-270 zoom, big ass zoom, which only Bob can really do effectively and perfectly, and just about every time. I mean, I don't even want to get into how amazing Bob Richardson is as not only a cinematographer, but as an operator. He's the best operator I've ever seen. There's he's unbelievable. It's really mind blowing. And so we're doing that big snap zoom in, and Leo comes walking over to Bob, and they had known each other from Avatar and all and all the things with Scorsese and all that stuff. And he goes, "Hey Bob, what are you zooming to and from here?" And I want to say, I don't know, I'd be making it up, but it was a long, it was quite a big snap. Big wide whole room into not quite a Sergio Leone, almost a Sergio Leone, but to here. And Leo just kind of shook his head. Okay, all right. And he's got that long cigarette holder and all that jazz. And the first take, well, come on in. We got a good bit of fun going on here. And boom, snap in, and he held the you can see if you look again, the end of the cigarette holder is a little bit uncomfortably close to his face, because somehow he just knew where the end of the frame would be for the end of the cigarette, and he wanted to keep the shot's ruined if the cigarette holder doesn't make the frame, and he knows it, and he puts it in exactly the right purpose on take one. It was, and I'm like, okay, check the gate. I made a joke. I remember specifically, check the gate. We're moving on from that one because it was perfect. The first take of the first shot with Leonardo DiCaprio was perfect, and not by accident. It wasn't a fluke. He knew what he was doing. Bob knew what he was doing. Quentin designed the shot, and it was magic. And that's just the way Leo is. I mean, Leo is really one of certainly the most prepared actor. Really, really digs deep and takes deep bite. That's why he struggled with the Calvin Candy character, because he was such a bad man.
I was going to ask you about that because that's a perfect segue. Of course, DiCaprio was uneasy about the gratuitous racism in his character displays until it's written that Samuel Jackson pulled him aside, and basically Quentin Tarantino said that Calvin J. Candy is the only character he has ever created who he truly despises. I mean, like truly, truly despises. What was the atmosphere like on set? You mentioned earlier having the people there, everyone dress up and this, that, and everyone recreating cotton and all this thing. What was it ever tense? And you as an AD, did you ever? I'm sorry, as an assistant director, you're not an AD. Tarantino told you that. What were you tasked with? Were you able to keep everyone positive? Were there days where it was harder than others? What was it like?
Yeah, there certainly were days that were hard. I remember the one day where they first arrive at Don Johnson's house. You know, that drive through the field was a very uncomfortable day because we were not, you know, the weather wasn't cooperating. We're in a field with, you know, all of these background specialists, you know, dressed as slaves, behaving as slaves, and that's just, you know, and the overseers behaving like overseers, and that's just hard to watch. You know, it's hard to watch in the movie, but you know, when you're standing there on the ground and you're at, you know, and I got to ask, you know, honey, can you move to the next cotton bush over, please, and pick that cotton? You know, I mean, it's
Right.
so we went to, you know, we went to great lengths to. I know I specifically did. I know the production specifically did. To constantly try to remind everybody who was there how grateful we were for them being there. You know, that and the Greenville scene was also very painful to shoot. You know, the people with I mean, to see that stuff, and this is, none of it was fake.
Right.
You know, it's not like we're making this shit up. You know, this is real stuff that, you know, Riva and his team had researched, and we had to put real people into those circumstances, and it was not comfortable and it was not fun. And fortunately, you know, all these people, this was in New Orleans at that time, were really, really happy to be there, seemed to understand what we were trying to recreate, and were appreciative to a certain extent for themselves to actually be here. You know, their parents and their parents and their parents lived this, and I am here because of it. I am a powerful person, and I would do my best to remind them, and then of course invite them to the party.
Yeah, you got to come to the party.
And then, you know, yeah. So because we are still every Friday, you know, Friday nights, it's still an important job. Where are we going? In New Orleans, it's not as challenging as it was.
Oh yeah.
But it still was an important part.
And just to piggyback off what you just said here is the challenges. I think you guys also had another challenge because me and him talked about this last night, which was I've never once in my life laughed at anything racism related, but for some reason you guys got a chuckle out of me when Jonah Hill came out of that mask, and then everyone's there arguing about, well, your wife made him. She's not going to do this anymore. The one guy, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the nicest mob I've ever seen in my life. It was funny. I chuckled. I was like, okay, they got me. That was excellent. So great job to you guys on that.
Yeah, that was all Quentin. You know, obviously that's Quentin's writing. Quentin's in the scene. He's one of the guys. He never takes the bag off his head, but he's on the horse, and you know, what if, you know, we go next time we go full regalia. You know, that.
It's satire. He's making fun of them.
It's really that's what makes that scene work. Obviously, it's very well written. Quentin can write comedy just as well as he can write drama. The guy has a gift, and you know, the fact that we're making fun of these ass backwards people, gives it a little light. You know, it gives it a little light, and I'm really excited that it made the movie. The first version that I had saw, it didn't make it. It wasn't in that cut. And Quentin had showed me and Bob. He invited me over to the edit. Me and Bob over to the editing room together. And Bob and I sat in, you know, office chairs and watched it on a big TV. And we both missed it. And he's like, "Yeah, you noticed? Yeah, of course we noticed. You know, we noticed everything that's not in the movie." And but this we really missed. You know, and I remember standing out in the driveway and, you know, and just kind of throwing ideas and you know, before this and that, you know, and then next time I saw it, Quentin had the brilliant idea of the flashback and all of that, and it was in a perfect spot in the film to give
some tension relief. Yes.
What's your favorite memory from that production?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many good memories and so many challenging memories, but you know, there's one thing that I kind of love. It's kind of a personal story. It doesn't really reflect. It reflects in the film only in the sense that the montage with all of the way you set the table and how specific that was. Now I had brought a PA, oddly enough, who I had worked with on the Big Mama's House movie, Freddie Turner, who's now a photographer and an AD, a great AD in his own right. But when we were shooting in December in Lone Pine, the opening scene, with the I'm looking for Django. You're the one I'm looking for. Yeah. We were getting towards the end. That was very challenging to shoot. It was cold, and on top of it, we're misting. It's below 32 degrees, and because we want the breath, we had built misters in the forest, hidden in the trees, so water would be constantly to create the moisture, so there would be more breath to see in the coldness. So it was really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's because the shot through the icicles.
Yes.
That wasn't on our agenda. The misters created that ice, and Bob and I walked over and we're like, look at this. This is f***ing wild. And we brought Quentin over, and Quentin's like, yeah, we got to shoot this. But that was only created because of the misters we had put in the trees. The water had come together and started to drip off the leaves and would freeze. And so it was a really challenging thing out there in Lone Pine. It was uncomfortable, all Jamie's out there and the rest of the guys, Sammy and all the other, the other guys that we had behaving as slaves in that chain gang were, topless. They were uncomfortable. They didn't just act uncomfortable. They were uncomfortable. And my main man, Freddie, had run to make a sandwich for one of the guys and inadvertently had ruined one of the shots. Just somebody had walked into the shot, and that shot, and Quentin was very upset because we're it's like 4:00 in the morning. We're almost done. We're just trying, we don't want to come, we're not coming back another day. It was a stressful moment in time. And Quentin was like, I don't care a shit who it is. I want him fired. I want whomever, I don't give a shit. We got to get out of here. He was very upset. And I went and talked to, I put on a bit of a show largely for Quentin to, feign how upset I was. I was upset, but I know who Freddie is. I'm not, and I don't want to fire him. I'm going to find a way to not fire him. And Freddie had a bit of, he was really worried. He was very upset. He had a very difficult night that night. And the next day we come in and I'm like, Freddie, you stay at base camp today. And Quentin asked me, did you find out who that was? I'm like, yeah. Did you fire him? I said, no, I didn't fire him. Why not? I'm like, well, Quentin, I just really don't think it's the right thing. I don't, he had a moment. It was a mistake. And granted, he made a mistake, but he's here for all of the right reasons. And he's the sweetest guy on the planet. He's the size of a mountain, but he's, but his heart is as soft as a teddy bear. It's just, I just think it's the wrong decision. And I did not do what you asked. And I apologize. And he's like, okay. He begrudgingly agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, months later, we're shooting we're about to get ready for the setting of the table, which was a very important piece that, the musical interlude, again, a breath, but also the meticulousness with which the people who worked in the house had to adhere by was an important message for the stupidity of the whole situation. This is all dumb. everything about this is dumb. Not only are the Mandingo fighting dumb, not only is the guy, the guys, getting a beer for winning the fight and not dying is dumb. The people having to set the table for these idiots, these Candy family idiots in such a meticulous way is also dumb. But we had taken, we kind of handpicked those people who would be working inside of the house for that sequence. One of them, Belinda Wino, came back. She was an extra on Django Unchained, and Quentin appreciated her work so much on that he brought her back. She was holding the jelly beans in the Hate Plate. And I had charged Freddie with finding the right person, we hired a specialist, to teach these 4 or 5 specific people. And I charged Freddie with making sure that they trained and studied how to do this like they had done it every day for their whole lives since they were small children. And Quentin was kind of nervous about it because, it's just a weird thing. It's a weird way to set a table in general, and that it's so specific and so precise. And also, plus then you add the element of the camera to just move that precise so it looks a little bit even more precise. It was, and these are extras ultimately, these are background specialists who again have to step up and, under hot lights with, Quentin Tarantino staring at them with, with his big Cherokee eyes, and I charged Freddie with making sure that these people would be ready. And Quentin was so pleased with their work that he brought Freddie, at the end of the scene, he was great. And he asked the crew to give Freddie a big round of applause for the work he had done with these people in order to prepare that. And for me, it was a bit of a vindication for disregarding something that he had asked me to do. And for Freddie, it was, he was now where he was on the verge of tears and fear in December. In March, he's king of the world. And that's one of my favorite memories, and especially because of the content. I took Freddie from Atlanta to Los Angeles to work on this movie because he was, these are his parents, this is his family. These are his genealogy that had to suffer and endure this. And he had done such a great job on Big Mama's House. I wanted to reward him with this opportunity, and he deserved it. And then to get the ovation from, most importantly Quentin, but certainly the whole crew, for him and the people that he had worked so hard to train over the week to be so perfect. And we did it very quickly. And it was exactly what Quentin had wanted. And Freddie was a success and became all of a sudden one of the MVPs of the picture. Was a very proud moment for me. And he continues to make me proud.
It's always nice when you take a risk, and especially like a risk that involves a selfless act like that of pretty much disregarding what the boss is saying to save somebody's job, and then it ends up paying off like that big time where it worked out.
I said, yeah, definitely. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, that's just kind of what comes to mind. There's tons of things that were really remarkable about the whole movie. There was so many great moments. Jamie Foxx is, God, I hate that guy. He can do anything. He can do anything at all. It's he's a musician. I'll never forget the time when 1,000 corpses. I got 1,000 corpses, 1,000 coffins. What's the name of the artist? It's escaped. Rick Ross was visiting the set. And he and Jamie go back to the trailer, and they come back written on a little, the back of sides. And he's like, hey, Quentin, will you listen to this? Me and Rick, we're just working on this, and we want to know what you think. And there it was. I got 1,000 black corpses for 1,000 black, and Rick Ross just recites it to Quentin. I'm lucky enough to be there, and he and Jamie had just scribbled it out together in the trailer 10 minutes before, it's like, geez, is there anything you can't do? Is there anything? Anything?
Why don't you subscribe? It'll last longer.